Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If somebody can just show whether you can see the screen that I'm sharing. Benny, kan jy die skerm sien? Wys sommer net 'n thumbs up. Okay, dankie julle. Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are recording this session and it will be posted on YouTube still this week. So feel free to share it with your family and friends. Also a couple of people that indicated that they've got load shedding, so they will benefit from that as well. So tonight brings us to the second session in our series on community security, where we will be discussing threats against farms, residences, and families. Now, the foundation of community security can be found way back in the book of Nehemiah, where many parallels to the current situation we face can be drawn from. I'm not going to go through the scripture tonight, but it will serve you well to read and to draw conclusions from it in your own time when watching the YouTube link once posted. An effective community security system rests upon three pillars, i.e., the community, the South African police services, and lastly, local private security companies. Now, all activities jointly or as individual parties needs to adhere to the rule of law as stated in the Constitution of South Africa. It is crucial that there exists an extremely good relationship between these pillars based on a deep understanding of each other and their respective roles, their abilities, and their mandates. This relationship needs to be nurtured and protected at all costs. Unfortunately, the Achilles heel of this structure normally lies within the community that do not understand their role and accountability in this alliance. Now, if we look at the purpose of community security, and I'm sharing it again today, I shared it last week, but this is the golden thread that actually runs through the whole series. Now, case studies and debriefings of terror incidents that has taken place has revealed that the biggest threat to community security is the fact that people do not know that they do not know, and what is expected of them to do to be prepared to face an attack. Many a times, this is exacerbated by ego and arrogance. People still think that it will never happen to me. And sadly, this notion has cost many people dearly. Loved ones lost their lives, or they have been subjected to torture and must live with this trauma. In other cases, people took their precaution, i.e., they installed alarm systems, electric fences, etc., but then get complacent and not doing the basics. For instance, like not arming the alarm system and leaving the house when they hear strange noises outside, opening themselves up to being captured by attackers and leaving their families unprotected. One can never let your guard down. In many cases, people do not know the enemy. This is also a very big problem. They do not fully understand the reality and the seriousness of the threat. Security starts at home. when little things can save your life and that your family and that of your family, just by being observant and adhering to certain very basic principles, can protect your family from harm and also discourage criminal activity, which is the main purpose. So if we look at the purpose of community security, it is to upgrade the general alertness, the preparedness, and the ability of law-abiding citizens to actively respond to acts of criminality, and through this, disallow the freedom of movement of criminals within our communities. Now, we're currently busy with upgrading the general alertness. In weeks to come, we will delve into the preparedness and the ability of our communities. So if we now go and have a look at the threats against farms, residences, and families, just as an introduction. So as seen from the previous slides, effective community security rests upon the three pillars underpinned by the law and the Constitution. Thus, protection planning requires an integrated approach where all three disciplines actively need to take part in. It makes sense that relationships is key to this. And unfortunately, uncontrolled, ill-disciplined behavior will damage the initiative irreparably. It needs strong and effective leadership to coordinate the actions at community level. And everybody in the community needs to ensure that they are in the know of what is expected of them. But you still find that people think that they can actually do it alone. And unfortunately, they may find out, albeit too late, that no man is an island. Also, the law of significance, Jack Welch or John Maxwell, states that one is too small a number to achieve anything of greatness. We need each other. And the sooner we understand that, the sooner we can achieve effective community security. In the next couple of slides, I'm going to mention various threats that we need to be cognizant of. I'm not going to explain each of them, as we will have an industry expert, Mr. Brent McNamara, and he is the CEO of Agri Eastern Cape, discussing them during our next session a week from now. This will give you the time to reflect on the information that I will be sharing tonight. And it will enable you to fully understand the full spectrum of the threat we are facing. Knowing our enemy is as important as it is to know your own ability and the ability of the community cluster as such. Now, if we look at the threats against farms, residents, and families as an introduction, protection planning needs or requires an integrated approach. And as we mentioned, the three pillars which it stands upon. We also need to understand that farm attacks is not always only criminal in nature, but in some cases also politically motivated. Farm attacks are used as a weapon by leftish activists and certain organized crime gangs. And they attack knowing the inability of the current government system gives them an advantage not to be apprehended. But I must state here that I have had many meetings at high level, at strategic level, as well as at operational level with the SAPS. And I still need to find a SAPS member that is not passionate about what they're doing and also about security and community security. We also need to understand that attacks is used as an elimination tactic, but also as hard intimidation, and is also used as a threat method. In essence, the protection of home and occupants starts with the family, and the process of protecting this should be planned very carefully, very seriously, and also with the whole family and the neighbors. These plans need continuously rehearsal and updating, with the whole family actively taking part. If we look at the threats against farms and residences and families, I must state that every house and family is a target. And we also need to know that it has been meticulously addressed by criminals and assessed by criminals before any attack. Attacks are initiated with information obtained from within or outside the farm or the urban residence, and this information is usually obtained from workers. When an attack is executed, normally with military precision, it always comes as a complete surprise to the victims. And these attacks can happen at any given time, but it mostly happens at night. These attacks take place in the house, near the house, or on your way to and from your house. And sadly, the lives of young and old are not spared. These attacks also usually include some serious torture and murder, and we've read about that. These attacks can take a couple of minutes in urban areas or many hours in rural or farm areas. The duration and the aggressive nature of an attack is determined by a couple of things. First of all, how unprepared and defensiveless the potential victims are. If there is a previous vindictive attitude by perpetrators towards the victims, how isolated and vulnerable the targets are, and also how fast they can obtain help. It just shows the importance of good communication. We look still at common tendencies of attacks when they happen. And I just asked, there's somebody that I want to mute. There. So nighttime and early mornings usually when occupants are asleep or when they move outside to do their routine tasks. Also when occupants have a set routine when leaving their homes, when departing or returning from their homes or to their homes, on worker paydays, in instances where occupants or when occupants are purposely made to leave their homes. Electrical faults, dog that barks outside, alarm that went off or goes off in a barn or something. And then also when occupants are relaxed. It happens many times that while people are watching TV and their alarms aren't set, that they are being surprised by attacks. Now let's quickly delve into some of the warning signs before attacks. Now, notable signs of unrest among workers. That means that we need to be very tuned in with our workers. When house keys disappear under suspicious circumstances, how many of us actually keep our keys away in a safe place and not keep it in the doors? When a family security is visibly less than the area security. Suspicious persons and vehicles are frequently observed in the areas. unknown visitors that arrive with no explanation for their presence in the area, and then dogs that bark during the night without you being able to assess the cause thereof. Also, unexplainable death of guard dogs. Workers who previously worked for you and then suddenly visit you without reason. New workers who inexplicably disappear without reason. Indications and signs that your house is under observation. High-profile vehicles spotted in a specific area, normally with foreign number plates. Also, unknown vehicles with strange number plates spotted in the area, which can indicate surveillance. A stationary vehicle with strange number plates observed in an area, which can also indicate surveillance. An increase in provocative political utterances, threats, and hate speech in a specific area. An increase in racial conflict and incidences in a specific area. Also, information obtained regarding racial incidences and also labor unrest relating to specific individuals in an area. A sudden increase in illegal occupation of private property in a specific area, and also a direct warning from SAPS or private security companies or an informer of a planned attack. When we receive reports of persons observing farms and residential houses, strange signs or objects noticed in front of or on fences at farms and residential houses, a noticeable unease among local communities, a noticeable uneasiness among workers, workers not responding for duty without notice, and workers that are noticeably uneasy and giving strange messages to employers, which indicates knowledge of potential attackers. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is obvious that we can never let our guard down. Also to remind you that we will be hosting Mr. Brenton McNamara, the CEO from Agri Eastern Cape next week, as an industry expert on security-related matters. He will delve more deeply into the aspects of the threat facing us. He'll also be dealing with case studies in this regard. But I think let me leave you with the following blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and grant you, your family, his shalom peace, protection, and provision. Amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gents, as I mentioned, what we try and do is to really make it short, bite-sized, chunk-like information so that it's not overwhelming. So thank you for your time. We will be, and I did record the session, and it will be posted on YouTube shortly. So please go through that, and we will see you again next Tuesday. Have a safe night, and we chat again.